6 for you, and this is on a blood gas. And our nurses are empowered, they start some NORAD, they can't get control, they call the registrar, he comes in and puts in some adrenaline, and at this point he notices the patient is cold, clammy and mottled. So now what's happened there? And we're thinking, is this our drain, is this our anticoagulation, what has gone wrong there? So this is what we find when we echo there. Any comments on this one? This is with a blood pressure of 77. You can see this is about 9 o'clock on the 28th. We all started this game on the 27th, no, 26th, I think. Any comments? Anyone?
Temperate, cardiac temperate.
It's a subcostal view, and if you see, I would like you to focus on the RV. What's happening with the RV there? It's a completely collapsed RV, essentially. Basically, you can't hardly see any RV, and that's probably because you are so hypovolemic. So we know there is a problem, and the blood results illustrate that. We give him 4 units of packed red cells with some FFP and some platelets, and this immediately corrects his hypotension, and the inotropes and vasopressors get stopped fairly immediately. So we probably filled the bucket, but what we don't know where the hole is, as we said in the previous speaker's rush protocol thing, that where is the problem, we don't know. Although we had some differentials, well, have we caused some major trauma with our ICD, is he bleeding, but there's nothing that we could specifically see. What we know was we had resuscitated him well. You've seen this picture before, what do you make of this? So would you say that he's been well filled and well resuscitated? Okay. So we then put an ultrasound probe on his belly and take a look at the marker where the marker is here. What are you seeing? If I tell you this is the left kidney, what can you see? Look at this. What's happening here? Which organ is this? Spleen. Excellent. Yeah, so he's got a massive splenic hematoma, and that's on the static. So that's where we pick it up at about 10 o'clock on the 28th. And then we carry on scanning him for looking at further things, and we look at the probe where it is. If you notice the probe here, what do you think this is? Any more guesses? A well-circumscribed circular figure with very, very demarcated margins in the center of the abdomen. It is? It is the aorta, but what's the problem with aorta? It's an aneurysm. It's an aneurysm, and which probably has a degree of calcification in it. So this is the aneurysm we find in this chap. So I want to leave time with the discussions, and that is why I'm going to wrap it up fairly quickly. So finally what we do is, we found the cause now, we resuscitated him, and I genuinely feel we would have struggled without the imaging techniques. So on the 1st of March, we embolized his spleen. His aorta, his aneurysm was 5.9. So our cusp for stenting them is over 6. But given the scenario, we still stented him on the 1st of March with an EVA. We took the left ICD out on the 1st of March. We woke him up and extubated him on the 2nd of March. At the time of extubation, he was confused. Needed a bit of clonidine. We don't use dexmedetomidine at all. We are big believers in clonidine. His condition much improved on the 4th of March, and he was stepped down on the 9th of March. At the time of writing this case, he was still in hospital. So he was fully mobile, neurologically intact. Given the amount of contrast he had over a period of time, multiple angios, contrast CTs, head CTs, he was dialysis, and EVAR obviously, he was dialysis dependent when I left, and he was just grateful in the grand scheme of things. So what we learned from this case? We learned that in the grand scheme of things, it was quite satisfying to be an intensivist really, because I genuinely feel if you're just a physician or a surgeon, this chap probably would have died, to be honest. It is our mix of skills that probably saved him. If the situation demands as intensivists, we can step up the game, we can be part surgeons. Well, I don't fancy being a surgeon, but yeah, you can be. We are obviously good physicians, or we can even be decent radiologists and know what we are looking for. However, it also taught us it is imperative for us to know our boundaries and seek advice. We don't want to be stepping on other people's toes when the time comes. This man survived because we believed in our skills and our knowledge. And most importantly, when we sorted a problem, we kept on thinking, why did the problem happen? So we did think outside the box. Let's look at some evidence of cardiac arrest and ultrasounds. I've only looked at the evidence in the last 2 years for the sake of simplicity. So this was there, all classified general academic emergency medicine. This was there from 2016, hot of the press, prognostic value of cardiac arrest. Again, this was fairly recent, 2015, and this was a prospective trial. And this was presented as an abstract in one of the conferences. But the take-home message from any evidence you look at, and for that I looked at the last 10 years general, is irrespective of what you do, we have not quite reached the stage where we can solely make decisions in terms of CPR based on an echo probe. I think we are not there yet. Maybe in 10 years' time, maybe in 5 years' time, things to be maybe different. Yes, in my view, it should be used as an adjunctive tool, but not as a sole tool. So you should not go into your ER department, put in a probe and say, this is fruitless, just stop it. I think we are not at that stage just yet. And I would also like you to point you at that point to this piece of evidence, the yellow one. These guys in that trial suggested that if on multiple echoes while you're doing, if you find that there is no cardiac activity for 8 minutes of continuing CPR, it is probably futile and you should stop. But I'm not 100% convinced we are at that stage just yet. And on that note, we should stop and open to questions. Thank you very much.
Absolutely riveting case, Ravi, and I think the observation that you made on being a proud intensivist and one who integrates bits from so many other walks of medical life is absolutely heartwarming, and that's what is our identity. Now, I have a question. I set the ball rolling. I think everybody should participate. With a GCS of 3, you didn't think of a targeted temperature control?
Now, we were one of the collaborators of the TTM trials because it was run from our sister organization, which is the St. George's. We don't actively cool anymore. We maintain a normal thermia. So we will never let them get warm, but we will not actively cool. So the very fact that it has not come up there would mean that the temperature would have been normal, otherwise it would have been highlighted.
Ravi, you started with saying we made errors. I'd just like to know what errors you made.
I think we had a delay in picking up rib fractures and sternal fractures, and what happened there was, when I've never not been to the ED department in India for a very long time now, but what happens is there is so much chaos. There are any registrars in our ED when they come in, and they think they are God's gift to earth, and they take over the whole scenario, and there's a lot of noise and a lot of movement. And I think what happened there is the A&E registrar should have done a fast scan at that point, but they didn't. That is one, because there was active CPR, there was glucose on, there were paramedics, and this was a young fit guy. We wanted to save him. So I think in hindsight, we could have picked up the rib fractures and sternal fractures. So we probably could have put in the two drains together. That is one criticism I have of ourselves. And I think we could have volume resuscitated him better or quicker is the other one we have. But then we kept on blaming ourselves that was it the Lucas that caused his splenic laceration? Because those of you who've seen Lucas, it sits on the left and it is quite compressible. It is very effective, and I think that probably may be the future. But I think with fractured ribs that had already happened on scene when the CPR was given, putting Lucas on that may not have been a good idea. But look, it worked. So that could have been done better, I think.
Your patient had multiple VF episodes.
Yes.
Could you have looked at electrolytes during the whole thing?
Yes, again, as I say, in most of the ICUs in UK, things like electrolytes and all that, our nurses are so empowered that they would have checked it and corrected it without me being knowing it. So if it was out of ordinary, it would have flagged up. The very fact, again, it has not been highlighted, probably it was okay, is what I would say. The case is completely unedited. I have not changed any figures whatsoever. So whatever you see was there. The fact that it is not there, maybe it wasn't there.
The case very rightly highlights the use of frequent ultrasound before CPR, during CPR, and to know the post-CPR sequelae also. One thing I was amazed whether the aortic dissection was missed initially or condition was missed initially or.
Well, the thing is that aneurysm was stable. It wasn't ruptured, and we had a cause of his arrest, and he obviously improved initially. So I don't think diagnosing. I think that aneurysm diagnosis was a coincidental finding altogether. This man probably would have lived without an aneurysmal stent for the rest of his life, and nothing would have happened. It was just a coincidental finding, that's why I put it up.
Correct.
So it was just,
My take is little.
as usual, it's amazing listening to you, Ravi. As you were pointing out some time back about the importance of clinical medicine, and I remember my teacher saying that if your patient is not doing well, please go back and examine the patient properly. And if still the patient is not doing well, please ask about the detailed history of the patient. So I'm sure your comment about the art and the technology is valid. Couple of points. You mentioned about 170 odd cardiac arrests in a year in your hospital, in your ICU.
Yeah.
And you said about 20% died.
Yeah.
So I think it's a huge kind of success if we compare our figures. I don't have